This conference will now be recorded.
Able to see my screen, right? And able to hear my voice, right? Please confirm me once actually, and then I'll proceed. Okay. Yeah, thank you. On Friday, if we remember, just give me a moment. Yeah. See, on Friday, what did we discuss actually? We discussed, we thought of discussing AnyPoint Studio OU, but we haven't done that. Okay, that is pending already. But we discussed like what is Mule configuration XML, what is Mule flow, what is Mule event, and we have done a sample application like with the help of Mulesoft, and then we close the session. Okay, right. Next, coming to okay, fine. Yeah. Now, see, we have, if you see, I'll recap it once again. Actually, Mule application or Mule project will consist of Mule configuration XML. Okay, configuration XML. How many XMLs can it have actually? As per our discussion, we can have multiple XMLs. Okay, multiple XMLs can be there. And obviously, Mule configuration XML will consist of Mule flows. Mule flows, there will be n number of Mule flows based on the requirement. And coming to Mule flows, what it consists exactly? It consists of orchestration logic, transformation logic, or enrichments logic, basically. Okay. See, now what is it? If someone asks what is Mule application or Mule project, or what is Mule configuration XML, or what is Mule flow, you should be able to tell that exactly. What is Mule application or Mule project? Mule project consists of configuration XMLs exactly, which consists of Mule flows. And Mule flows consists of orchestration logic, transformation logic, and enrichment logic. This is the hierarchy, and this is the way we have to tell. Okay. Next. Obviously, like again, we have seen like what is Mule configuration XML, and one second, just give me a minute. Yeah. What is Mule configuration XML? We have seen in detail exactly. Like, okay, Mule application project can have multiple. Just give me a moment. Actually, the screen is not going from here. Yeah. Okay, fine. See, each mule application or project is set of configuration XMLs. We discussed that, and it can have multiple configuration XMLs, and each configuration XML consists of mule flow definitions. Okay, and in the studio we have seen what is message flow, what are global elements, and what is configuration XML exactly. Okay, I have clearly explained this particular part. And coming to mule flow, I told you like mule project is a set of mule configuration XML. Sorry, next mule flow, right? Mule flow consists of orchestration logic, transformation, and enrichments. Each mule configuration XML can have multiple flows. And again, in mule flow, we'll have source, process, and error handling. We have seen that. And anything which is traveling or propagating in between the processors, right? That is known as mule event. Exactly, like already I've shown you, but today we'll go in depth about this mule event also and how it propagates exactly from one processor to the another processor. What is mule event? Mule event contains the core information processed by mule runtime. What is that means exactly? Payload, attributes, and variables. That is the core information which we'll be having, which is required by our mule runtime. What is mule runtime? I told you already. That is the backend system which will understand and which will run the whole applications or the processor for Mulesoft exactly. Okay, and it travels through the components. Already I have shown you like from one component to another component how it travels exactly, and I have shown you the structure of that mule 4. Mule 4 event consists of message, and in message we'll have payload and attributes, and separately we'll have variables, and we'll have the exception message whenever we have the errors exactly. Okay, these are the concepts we have discussed on Friday. And what happened immediately? We have just developed one Hello World application, deployed it, and we have seen the result by testing with the Postman exactly. But we haven't seen why we are doing that, what is happening behind the scenes and all exactly. We haven't done anything related to Hello World application. Today we'll see in detail about that exactly. Okay, fine. Now I'll go to today's agenda. Today's agenda is like the main important thing is detailed explanation of Hello World application. Okay, this is the first one. But before that, we need to discuss like what is HTTP, what is Mule event, and the detailed explanation of Hello World application, and then Anypoint Studio overview basically. Okay, fine. Before going there, I will just show you the Postman request what we have sent on Friday for testing our Hello World application. And in the meantime, I'll start Anypoint Studio also. Now, you see here, on Friday, if you remember what we have done, we have selected get here. We'll be having multiple methods. We call these are methods exactly. But for now, don't worry about that. I will clearly explain when to select which method and all exactly. These are HTTP methods basically. For sending any HTTP request, we use these HTTP methods. And there are, if you see, there are so many methods over here, but mostly we use get and post in real time exactly as per my observation, and sometimes put, patch, and delete, very less number of times. But get and post are the widely used methods basically. But remember, for now these are HTTP methods. We used a get HTTP method. And one more sentence I will add for this: get is used, actually get HTTP method is used whenever we want to fetch something which is already available in the system. Okay, that's the reason we use get method. Now we have Hello World in the Mule application. We wanted to fetch that message. That's the reason we are using get method, get HTTP method. And what is the protocol we are using for sending the request? HTTP protocol. And what is this local host? Whenever you developed your application, you deployed application, right, with the help of Anypoint Studio. Where did you deploy? In your local machine. Local host means nothing but your laptop exactly. For example, like we changed it to some server. We'll give the server name, domain name over here, and there is a port. This is the actually when I deployed, if you remember in the listener, I have selected this port number and I have deployed this exactly. Okay, what is this port number? For example, like we have somebody has given the street address, but they haven't given the house number. How can you identify that house exactly? It's not possible. The same way, okay. For example, like this server name is like street address and this port is like house number. If you exactly know where to go, you can easily identify the address, right? The same way where your application resides exactly. That way you'll understand. In this server, on this port number, my application is deployed. You're telling the consumer of this particular API exactly. Okay, and what is this exactly? This is the path. Okay, this is the path. If you give this path, then only people will understand. And whether there is any body, we are not sending anything. Okay, ignore this exactly. We are not sending anything because it is a get. No need to send anything. Okay, if you click on this, what happens? We got the hello world as the response exactly. Hello world as the response. But I deleted that application to again show you exactly. I will delete this also. How to delete that? Select this, click here, delete, or right click this, delete, and select this option. Why we have to select this option? From workspace also we have to remove the project. That's the reason we are selecting this option. Delete project contents on disk. Disk means where did we keep our workspace? Under C folder, users, Mahesh, Anypoint Studio. This is your studio workspace, is your workspace name. Under that we have sample demo project. I am deleting that sample demo project from the Anypoint Studio. The same way it will be deleted from studio workspace also. Okay. Now, if you remember how I will create a new project exactly, file, new, mule project. And I told you like hello world. And I have selected the runtime on which we will be deploying the application. And finish. Now your application or your project will be generated automatically with the help of the backend tools which are available on Mulesoft exactly. See here. Okay, yeah. Now, see, you haven't done anything, but automatically all these files are generated actually. Okay. There is a tool called Maven. Actually, what happens is Maven is nothing but it is a build tool. Actually, before you deploy anything, it will just build the application whatever you have developed exactly. Okay, and then it will be deployed basically. Okay, for doing that, already what is happening, Mulesoft has an inbuilt Maven tool exactly, and then automatically it will create the project structure like this. Okay, this is an empty structure already, you know, and what it will contain and all we'll discuss in detail later. But for now, obviously a project, this is called hello world, is a mule project or mule application, and under src main mule we have hello world mule configuration xml file. Under this configuration xml file we'll have the flows. Under one project we can have so many mule configuration xmls. Under one mule configuration xml we can have multiple flows exactly. This is the thing which we discussed on Friday. Now on Friday, if you remember, I dragged and dropped flow here. Now each flow will consist of source, process and error handling. And already I told you each configuration XML will consist of message flow, global elements, configuration XML. Okay, right. What did I tell you? Message flow is the visual representation of whatever developer is doing. We are dragging and dropping the components. We are dragging the dropping the source parts, process. We are doing everything in under message flow. And the configuration XML, as soon as we do something, automatically the XML code will be generated, which will be utilized by the mule runtime exactly. See, we know English and we know graphical representation, everything we'll understand, but machine will not understand, the server will not understand. For that, what happens? Automatically, whatever you are doing here, exactly, a backend code is generated in the configuration XML. This XML code will be understood by our Mule runtime. Mule runtime is, that's a server part of our Mulesoft, exactly. Okay, that part will be understood. This XML part will be understood by that particular Mule runtime. Now, what are global elements in simple? Whenever we are creating a connector configuration, that connector configuration will be stored at the global level. Okay, that global element can be used across your whole project. Exactly. I have shown you on Friday, but I'll show you once again once we create the listener configuration over here. Exactly. Okay. Now, what happens? These global elements and this message flow, whatever we are doing here will be inculcated in this XML code. Exactly. Okay, XML code will be generated, and this XML will be understood by our Mule runtime. Okay, why this XML? Because our Mulesoft is built on Java Spring Framework. Okay, Java Spring Framework will understand XML code. That's the reason we always use XML files for the backend. And we have to develop anything in this particular XML file? Nothing. We do most of our work, 90 to 95% of the work, drag and drop here itself, basically, as I told you. Now, one more thing, I have taken flow here and I have selected. Without doing that also, Mulesoft is an intelligent system which will understand, for example, like, okay, I have taken listener, it went to the source part. Have you seen that? It is an intelligent system. It will understand which process can go to source, which process can go to process. That way it understand. For example, like if I drag and drop some set payload, exactly set payload we have, right? Set payload, I just wanted to click on it, and if I take to source part also, it will not happen because it is a process component. That's the reason it will not go to source component. And without dragging and dropping flow also, a new flow is generated here, if you understand. For example, like it is an intelligent system, it will understand. If you drag and drop any component outside of your flow, right, automatically it will generate a new flow. And I told you already, Mule configuration XML can consist of so many flows. But for now, we want only one flow. I'll delete the rest of the things. Exactly. See, I'm showing you the just multiple ways of doing it. Exactly. That's the reason you'll be seeing it. Okay, fine. Now, what happens is actually we have listener, we have set payload, and obviously we'll be setting some payload like hello world here, and then we'll be sending the response to the postman. But before that, what we have to do? Listener. We have to set the listener configuration, right? Without setting it, what happens? Obviously, it will be difficult to run the application. Okay, now this connector configuration, I don't have anything, right? That's the reason first time I'll be creating with the help of this plus icon. If already there is a listener configuration which is already set in the project, you can use the edit option or you can use the drop down option. If there are any listeners already configured, you'll be getting it here, but we don't have any configured right now. That's the reason we are not able to see any listener configurations under the drop down now I'll click on plus for creating a new listener configuration over here. See, I have selected by default what all the options I am getting. See, just now I was discussing with you what is the protocol we are going to use, HTTP protocol, and what is the host name we are going to use, 0.0.0.0 or local host. Both are same only. Don't confuse between these two. Basically, if I keep 0.0.0.0 or local host, both are same only. Okay, local host means what? We are deploying our application on our local host. And if you want to invoke that API or REST API or the web service, if you use this localhost as the domain name, automatically it will be sensing that you are using our application exactly. Okay, localhost. And what is the port number? As the same as our house number, we should specify the port number for using that. Now click on OK. If you see here, automatically listener configuration is enabled exactly. Okay, right now. And where it will be configured? Under global elements. Till now, global elements doesn't have that. It means that this listener configuration can be utilized across the whole project because it is created at the global level. What is the meaning of global level? Across the project, if you can use something that's known as global level. Okay, that's the reason we call this as global configuration elements. Okay, now if you see, I dragged and dropped something here, and with the help I configured the HTTP listener configuration. If you observe that configuration XML file, see, a flow is generated. Okay, listener configuration is generated, localhost port 8081. Automatically, whatever you're doing in the this particular canvas area is getting generated XML code. Okay, mostly we are doing only drag and drop and just configure these components exactly. Automatically, Mulesoft will generate the XML code. Now, see, you have set the listener configuration and we have to give the path also. I'm giving test as the path. What is the path? On Friday, what we have done, we have set the path as hello world exactly. Whatever path you want to set for your application, it is up to you to decide exactly. But for showing the difference for that only, I am giving on Friday I have given hello world. Today I am giving test. Okay, because we deleted the application which we developed on Friday basically. Till now you are able to see some error over here exactly because path is mandatory for setting the listener. Okay, that's the reason till now we were seeing the issue, but now it's completely, there are no errors. That's the reason it's complete exactly. Okay, now this listener configuration is complete. And what is the purpose of this set payload exactly? As I already told you, in the mule event we have a part called payload exactly. Mule event consists of message and variables. Under message we have what is the thing we have in under message? We have attributes as well as the payload. Payload is the main body which will be receiving or which will be used for the processing exactly. Okay, here if you see under value we have one button kind of thing exactly. What is this button? We can tell that go to expression mode, go to literal mode. If this fx is seen under blue icon, that's known as expression mode. If it is with normal exactly without that blue background, automatically that's known as literal mode. See, if you click on this, as I already told you, hash square braces, hash and square braces will be utilized for writing data weave language expressions. Already I told you there are two languages in Mulesoft for developing as well as the designing the applications exactly. Okay, this data weave language, whenever you wanted to write some expressions, right, this is an expression based language. I'll come to that part later in the sessions exactly, but always please remember, if you see this hash and two square braces, one here and one here, if you write something inside that, that's known as data weave language expressions. Some people call it as DWL also. DWL, data weave language. DWL stands for data weave language. Okay, now if you want to write something in data weave language expression mode, then we should go for expression mode. Now if I want to write something plain text over here, we can go to switch to literal mode. This is the plain mode. Now I just wanted to set a plain text over here, hello world. right? I set the value payload as this component itself telling set payload. We are setting the payload because we are not sending any payload here exactly from here. We are just trying to, I already told you, get is a method which will help us to get the available resource, right? Here, hello world application is there. We have hello world in that particular application. We want to fetch that particular resource. That's the reason we are just giving the get method over there exactly. And if you observe one more thing, as soon as I dragged and dropped the flow here, if you see, automatically name has come. Hello world flow 1. How we are getting this automatically, the name we can change here also. There is no problem. Hello world flow. If you want to change the name, we can change it here. Name, flow configuration. How to do that? If you click on flow, not inside, exactly on the top of that, and then you can see that hello world flow was there. I just changed it. How did you get this name? If you see hello world configuration XML file, got the name. Okay, hello world.xml. From that, automatically hello world flow has come exactly. But how does this get the name exactly? With the help of project. You have given the project name as hello world. Okay, from hello world, it inherited the name. This configuration XML inherited the name from project name, and from project name, flow name. But if you want to change, you can always change. Okay, if you want to change the flow name, you just clicked on it and change it. And if you want to change the configuration XML name, you can go here, just refactor, rename, right click, refactor, rename. Okay, I can change it. Okay, don't worry about all these settings exactly. All these changes also you'll understand later. But sometimes you may require to rename. That's the reason I'm just telling you that how to do the rename exactly. Now your application is ready. What is this application? If you hit on it, you will get a hello world message. That's it. This is a simple application exactly. Simple project. Okay, from simple project we'll go to the medium complex and complex projects. Okay, don't worry about that. We'll use multiple we have used only one source thing and one processor in the process, and currently we are not bothered about error handling. Don't worry about this, because error handling is very important part. We'll discuss in detail in separate sessions exactly, and then we will what to say, sum up everything, aggregate everything, and then we'll see how we have to handle errors and all exactly. Okay, fine. Now we are ready to deploy this project. See, if there are two ways of doing it, no, not two, 3 to 4 ways of doing it, but still I will just show you the simple ways of deploying the project. Right click, run project. This is one option. Here one more option. Right click, go to run as, and mule application. These are the two ways. Now this is very easy for me. That's the reason I am using run project hello world. I'm just, if you see here, you see the build success, and then it will get deployed exactly. See, in the meantime, before it deploys exactly, see, this package explorer is the place where all your projects. Now I am seeing my hello world project because I have only one project. If you have multiple projects, all projects will be seen here, and detailed project structure, you can, when you click on that expand button, automatically you can see the total detailed project structure. For example, like if you want to minimize, I will minimize and I'll go to another project, and then again I can do that exactly, open that particular project. Okay, package explorer is nothing but if you want to see your projects where all your projects lies in the Anypoint Studio, this is the package explorer, is the area where you will have everything exactly. Okay, right. And again, this mule palette is the area where you will be getting all your processors exactly. This left side is there, right? This is known as modules, and all these are known as processors or the components or connectors exactly. Okay, each, for example, like if you know, if you see Salesforce, you'll be having hundreds of not hundreds, tens of connectors or the processor on the right side exactly. If I click on this, see, these are the two areas. There is a line, right? This is known as module area, and this is known as process or connectors or components area. For each and every module will be having so many connectors. For example, like if I click on HTTP module, you have listener, request, response, resource, basic filter. But what we have taken from HTTP listener. Okay, why we have taken HTTP listener? Because we are sending the HTTP request. Then if you're sending the HTTP request, obviously HTTP listener can understand that request and it will change the request to the corresponding mule event for our application exactly. That's the reason we have selected HTTP listener over here. Okay, but under HTTP module, we have so many things. 4 things are there. We will discuss whenever we are using that particular connector, right? We will see the explanation of that particular connector. Okay, now we are using listener, or already we are using that. In that palette area, we have modules and we have what? Connectors, exactly. And just now, if you see console, whenever you deployed your application, right? When you ran your application, right? What did you do exactly? You just right click and run. In the console, you can see what is happening behind the screens exactly. Okay. This is the backend thing which happened entirely. But it's whenever we have issues at that point of time, we should go inside and dig deeper. But now we don't require anything. But I'll show you what to be seen. See here. What is the application name? Hello world. What is the domain where our application is deployed? It is by default. Later on in the sections, you will understand what is this and all exactly. But for now, what is the domain? Default is the domain where our hello world application is deployed. And what is the status? It is deployed. If it is failed, we'll see the status as failed here. And we can see the reason if you go up exactly. Okay. Now our application is deployed successfully and now it is ready for, means now your application is running, and if you click on the Postman HTTP request, automatically your application will give the message back or the response back to the Postman exactly. Okay. Now get method, HTTP protocol, localhost, but now just now we configured 8081 as the port. Okay. And what is the path I have decided? Test. Now, if I click on it, what happens? You see the responses? Hello world. What is happening? Your listener is listening to the request and then it is sending that request to the set payload processor, and that set payload processor is having some hello world message, and that hello world message is sent back to the again listener part, that source part. Okay, that listener part is having responses. If I double click on this particular area, what is happening? It is becoming a big screen. It will maximize itself. Okay, it will come to the responses part of our listener exactly. Now what is happening? There are 2 sections in this particular thing. One is error response, one is successful response. For success response, they didn't mention success response, it's response exactly. But for whenever we get error response, here it will go from here, this part exactly. But for now we have a successful scenario. We are not going to discuss this particular part. Please ignore this part for now. We will see that success response part. Here already what I have said, under body please send payload, and for headers I'm not sending anything, and for status code I'm not sending anything, for reason phrase I'm not sending. This successful response for body part, take the payload from the available mule event and then send it back to the postman exactly. That's what we are going to do here, and that is the reason if you see under body part we are receiving hello world, but you got the status code as 200 also. By default it is receiving status code 200. Okay, don't worry about all this, we'll discuss in detail about that exactly. Okay, now you have deployed your application, and you know now why this package explorer will be there and why this mule palette is available. Okay, all these modules will be available. And this munit section, this particular part I'll just outline. This is not required right now, because not required right now, it's nothing but it will give you the complete overview of your project exactly, which is already open and running over here exactly. That's not required. We can see it here itself exactly. I will remove that. Okay, even this API kit consoles is not required. And even munit, whenever we come to munit part, we will come to this part exactly. Okay, that munit part, munit errors and munit coverage, all these will be helpful whenever we are going to discuss with munit. I already told you munit is a framework, testing framework, which is used for writing our test cases exactly. Okay, that's the reason we will discuss this particular part in a detailed session. Even this is also very important. As a developer, we have to write unit test cases, right? For writing all your test cases, we will be using munit testing framework exactly in Mulesoft. Okay, it is similar to JUnits in Java exactly. If somebody has Java experience and all, obviously it is the main reference for this munit also. But see, always we talk about Java when we are talking about Mulesoft exactly. But never we are going to use Java actually. Very less number of times we are going to use Java in the Mulesoft. But why we discuss? Because Mulesoft is built on Java based on the Spring framework. That's the reason we always talk about Java. Okay, but we rarely use Java modules or Java things in Mulesoft exactly. These three will be discussed at that point of time. I'm closing them exactly. Now, see, I already told you this is Explorer, package Explorer area, what you can see here. And this is palette, what you can see here exactly. Now, coming to whenever this is the area, whatever you're clicking, for example, I clicked on set payload. For setting that payload configurations and all, that particular component configurations will be opened here exactly. This properties configurations can be set under this particular whatever. For example, I clicked on listener, and what happens under listener, I can set the configurations over here basically. And if I click on set payload, obviously I can set the configurations of this particular processor. Okay, and this visual area is known as canvas. Actually, whenever I use the word called canvas, like drag and drop the particular component to canvas, nothing but this area, this working area is known as canvas exactly. Don't confuse. Go to package explorer, you have to come to the left side, go to mule palette. This is the area where you have to go to mule palette. And this bottom part consists of, see here, this one, property or the configurations to be set right. All this can be seen here. And coming to console, whatever you're doing, like for example, like you want to see the logs or you want to see the deployment or whether it is running or not, all these things can be seen on the console exactly. And you will, in the coming sessions, you will be getting familiarized with that exactly. Don't worry about that. And problems, whenever your project has some issues and all, that you can see under problem section. But current project hello world doesn't have any issues. That's the reason it's showing as 0 items. Okay, mule debugger, I'll explain you. Mule debugger, whenever we wanted to debug the application, when you run the application, what happens? It will automatically run the applications. When you hit here, what happens? It will automatically give the response. Okay, debug means whenever, for example, like it will come and stop at one point, and whenever you click on the next button, it will go. And you can see, for a developer, debugging the application is very important, and that particular section will be very helpful for a developer exactly. Okay, for that particular part, this mule debugger part will be very helpful. Debug means nothing but you will see the step by step of that particular application. It will be running. After that, in this step, what is happening, next step what is happening, third step what is happening. If you have multiple processes over here, you will be able to see clearly with the help of this mule debugger. Okay, if you know this is the AnyPoint Studio overview exactly. There are so many options exactly. When and then we require, right, we will discuss that in detail, and then we will be going through that particular thing. Don't worry about all those what is this, what is this, what is this. Don't worry about it. Whenever we require something, we'll discuss that, and then we'll learn that, and then we'll go ahead exactly. Okay, don't worry about it. Now, If you see, I just told you like what is HTTP, what is mule event, and I'll come to this particular part exactly. And we have seen the studio overview also. But we'll recap with the help of pictorial representations also. Already mule event we discussed so many times, but here because it is very important, that's the reason we'll be discussing it multiple times exactly. Okay, right now if you see, we have understood the concept, but we'll see the definitions of it exactly. Okay, now see, what is HTTP? HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It is the full form of it. Why we are using it? We are using to structure requests and responses over the internet exactly. If you see, get HTTP localhost 8081 test, this whole, if there is some body part, authorization part, headers part, you will be writing all those things and you will be sending as a request to the where, to the Mulesoft exactly, to the application, hello world application. Okay, that's what they are discussing. It is used to structure requests. In this case we are using requests exactly, don't worry about the response, but even the responses also for the internet we are using. When we use HTTP, I told you already, we always, most of the time in Mulesoft we develop REST web services exactly. Okay, 95% of the time we'll be developing REST web services, not SOAP web services. And REST web services uses HTTP. If you remember, I already told you this. Okay, that's the reason we are knowing what is the HTTP. If you see this postman, this is known as request. We are sending this HTTP request to the Mule Hello World application. Okay, that's the reason. Now what is happening? HTTP requires data to be transferred from one endpoint to the another network. See here, we are sending something, some request, but this request is having empty body. Don't worry about that. And empty authorization, empty headers, nothing over here exactly. Okay, that's the reason we are sending empty and we are receiving some response from it. Mulesoft application exactly. Okay, that's the point here discussed. HTTP requires data to be transferred from one endpoint to the another over the network. Now HTTP thing is over. What does HTTP request consist of? Just now we have seen HTTP method, get method, URL. URL is nothing but, see, for example, like whenever you want to type Google, what you will do? You give URL, right? www.google.com, right? This is known as URL, right? The same way we'll have our URL for our applications exactly. This entire thing is known as URL. What is the protocol used? HTTP protocol. That's the reason we call this as HTTP request. It consists of method, it consists of URL, it consists of body, yeah, it consists of headers, it consists of authorization. Okay. This HTTP request will consist of all these things in that and body part also. That's the reason we have represented HTTP request, body, headers, method, URL. But in this case, we don't have body, empty, right? We are sending empty body for hello world application, if you see here. And we are sending some headers exactly. Okay. And obviously we are sending method and URL. Don't worry about that exactly. Okay. Now we are sending the HTTP request and obviously it will be converted into mule event. Who will do that? I'll explain that particular part also with the help of diagram. Don't worry about it. This listener will receive the HTTP request and it will convert that HTTP request to mule event. That is the job of this particular listener. Okay. And immediately it will send that particular mule event to the next processor in the process part. Already we know the structure of mule event, right? What is mule event? Mule event consists of the core information. That core information is nothing but payload, attributes and variables. Okay, payload, attributes and variables. And we follow mule event structure. That's the reason Mulesoft follows event driven approach or mule event driven architecture. Whenever someone asks you like what is the architecture or what is the approach Mulesoft follows, you can tell that event driven approach or event driven architecture. Why? Because we are packaging everything into a mule event. Exactly, whenever we receive something request from the consumer, obviously we are trying to inculcate that whole message into a event. Exactly, that's the reason we are following event driven architecture. Okay, right. Coming to next, obviously we have seen this message multiple times. Mule event structure. Mule event consists of message and message variables and error message or exception message, and again message will consist of payload and attributes. Okay, just now I told you this listener will convert that HTTP request to mule event. How does it happen? That's the next picture. Able to follow, right? Any questions till now? Any questions till now? Okay, fine. If you see, this HTTP request will not be understood directly by what? Our Mulesoft, exactly. Hello World application. Mulesoft Hello World application will not be understanding this HTTP request. What it will do? We have HTTP request. What it consists of method, URL, headers, right? And body. This body part will be converted into payload, and this all these rest of the things will be converted into attributes, and variables will be created. Whenever we require variables, we'll be creating in Mulesoft application. That's the reason variables also will be empty. That listener will create empty variables, and exception message, we don't have any errors. That's the reason that is not covered here basically. Okay, now what happens? This request is being converted by listener. This method, URL, headers will be sent into attributes, and body will be sent into payload. Exactly. Okay, this conversion will happen by listener, and it will send that particular mule event to set payload. Exactly. Now whatever we discuss now, this is the whole representation of that. See, from Postman I am sending HTTP request. Go. Okay, now it is coming to the source part of HTTP listener. Okay, I have given the host, port, everything, and obviously the HTTP listener, it is listening to the request, Postman request or HTTP request. Exactly, and it is converting that request to mule event, and it is placing in the queue. Exactly. Okay, and that queue is again passing that mule event to the set payload. Here in this example, Hello World application, we have only one processor. That's why we are showing only set payload. If there are multiple processors, again this set payload, we are setting the payload Hello World. Exactly, and again we are sending the event to the next processor. Exactly. But now from here to response, and response will send to the response section for the Postman. Exactly. See here. Now that's the reason it is HTTP listener is listening to the request. That's the reason we call it as inbound endpoint. Inbound endpoint. Okay, inbound means what? It is listening to the request, incoming request. That's the reason we call it as inbound endpoint. Okay, if someone call like what is inbound endpoint, not only HTTP listener, whatever is in the source part and which is listening to the request, those are all called as inbound endpoint. HTTP listener is known as inbound endpoint. Okay, there are certain other endpoints also, but most of the time we'll be using HTTP listener. Now when it comes to, I already told you HTTP request, what it consists of exactly. It consists of body and headers, right? Okay, if you see here, I already told you what is converted. It comes into attributes, it comes into payload of the body. Body will come into payload, and headers will come into attributes exactly. See here. Now mule event. This mule event I am explaining here. Attributes, because we are passing some, it is non-empty. I kept it as any means non-empty. Payload empty. There is nothing. We are not passing anything in the body exactly. If you see here, we are not sending anything body under body part. That's the reason it is empty. And variables empty, because why empty? We don't have anything to store here in terms of variables. We'll discuss it in detail. Don't worry about it. That is also empty. Now this mule event is created with the help of listener, and it is putting in the queue. Whether you can see this queue internally, no, because it happens in the backend. This arrow shows, right, automatically there will be a queue and it is passed, and then it comes to the set payload processor. I'm showing that in the pictorial representation here. Now the set payload, what it will do, we're just setting that payload. Payload means what is that? Event. In the whole event, we have attributes, payload, variables. We have all these things, but we are only setting that payload as hello world. Hello world. Now, again, after this processor, mule event will be there, right? What is that mule event? Attributes, obviously, whatever you have sent from the source, it is there. Payload. Payload is nothing but, just now we have set the payload as hello world. That hello world message will be there. Variables, empty. There is nothing exactly. Okay. This message, we don't have anything to process further. Now from this queue it will send it to the listener, where it will go. Response is part of the listener. This particular part here, you have extracted payload part of the whole event. Actually, under event, what are all the things available? Attributes are there, payload is there, variables are there, but we just wanted to extract the payload from whole event. That's why we have a keyword called payload. Under body part, we have written as payload, and payload is a expression keyword actually for DWL language. That's the reason here, if you see, we are in the DWL mode exactly. Okay, DWL mode. In that we have used small p and payload exactly. If you write this, automatically that hello world part of the whole event will be taken and it will be passing to the success response for the postman. If you see here, responses under body, it is one. Again, if you see from payload, again, when it comes to the postman, it is becoming body. Here from body, we have sent empty. But as a response, we are, for this application, what is the requirement I told you? Whenever someone hits our application, we should send them hello world message. That's it exactly. We are receiving it right in the body. Okay. This is the pictorial representation of this particular total flow. See here. We are sending HTTP request, and on the inbound endpoint, actually like a HTTP listener of the source part, and in the process part, we are setting the payload. Okay. In the error handling, we are not going to discuss right now because I told you we'll discuss in detail about this later. Exactly. And then that particular message is sent to the responses part of the listener, and this response is given to postman. Okay, if you understand this particular flow, it is a very easy for understanding the whole Mulesoft exactly. Any flow or any application or any project will be dependent on this particular concept only. If you understood, it's very good. If you don't understand till now also, again go through the video once again. Okay, you will understand it very clearly. Don't worry about it exactly. And if you have any queries, please let me. Okay, right. Now, I just wanted to show another thing. I'm stopping the application. I'll go to console here. I will stop. If you click on this terminate, this application will stop. Okay, debug mode I will show you tomorrow basically. Even I want to show something else. Already the time is 9 o'clock exactly. It's almost 2 to 3 minutes. This particular part, debugging, how to debug, how to commit it here, it will take another 10 minutes exactly, 5 to 10 minutes, but we'll see it tomorrow itself exactly. Okay, fine, right? I'm stopping the recording.